and it's time for
Plastic
climate.
climate
Oh, we're so good.
future.com.
Future.com. Boom. I think that was a really good one.
So you didn't like our jingle?
You scared us for a second. We thought you left.
I mean, and that would have been a really, really good plot as well. Just to leave you hanging after the jingle after I, but as I tried to, as I thought I told you when I got on and disconnected, was that I'm really here because of the jingle, but because since I heard your first pod, I've been wondering what are these guys about and why can't they get a real jingle?
We're working on
Um,
it.
but I'm very, very honored to be here, and I'm very, very glad to be able to present both myself and my journey, but also maybe getting some questions from you guys who can open my ways of thinking. Because as working with plastic, as working with sustainability, it's always a matter of getting inspired by people who are doing something. There is a lot of people shouting for other people to do something, but there are not equally many people doing something or knowing what could be done, and that's like the stress that I face every day.
Mhm.
So great. Well, then, Emil, I think it's great to have you here tonight because tonight you can ask the questions. So finally, we can relax a bit, and then you're gonna ask the questions, and we will try to be smart. No, just joking, but really nice to have you. And maybe I just first say who you are. So you're Emil Pettersen from a company called Reparell. And before we talk about it, just tell us a bit about yourself. So, where are you coming from? How did you end up in materials and plastics and stuff?
And that's kind of the answers that I really like to talk about.
You have
We've
two
got
minutes.
43 minutes. That's that. No, but it's kind of easy, and in some way, in retrospect, it makes sense. I'm coming from Norway. I was a part of a small um, company family. We had a family store and a couple of it and stuff. So I've always been interested by commercialization, and um, I've always been thinking about how to sell, or if not selling, presenting things, whether it's your opinion or your product, in a way that actually wants people to change their pattern, right? Uh, the long story short, I went to business school. I did politics when I grew up. At the Norwegian Business School, I got seriously influenced by an American professor who brought American ideas to Norway. This was like the end 90s. We had the yuppie time, but it was still a lot of just selling your product and making your product cheaper or more available, and that was the marketing strategy. And then this Professor Peggy Brunn told me about corporate social responsibility and cost-related marketing, typical American tendencies that um, make sense in a country where you don't have all the social security solutions as you do in a welfare state, which Norway or Sweden or most of Northern Europe is. And I got so fascinated by these this way of thinking that actually doing right and telling your stakeholders about it uh, can do so much good both for your own business, your own employees, and also your revenue lines. So that was like, I admit that I get almost. I don't have any religion at this time, but if I have a religion, it's the corporate social responsibility, because I think that's the way that businesses will succeed in the future. Anyhow, I spent 20 years in the IT industry of Gothenburg, Sweden. Gothenburg, Sweden is like the capital of new inventions and have a lot of the tech companies of Sweden, which are working all over the world. And I was extremely lucky to be a part of a couple of the really big companies who actually made the difference, who actually was inventing things every day. And again, being a Swedish or a Scandinavian company, you have to improve yourself every day to be able to keep your job and not being outsourced to India or wherever. So that got a part. That suddenly became a part of my way of life and my way of thinking. And then I stumbled into the textile industry, and I thought, well, fuck, this is like the opposite of everything I've ever worked with. I mean, it's not a matter of being clever in marketing. It's not a matter of being nice or good or anything. It's basically just a matter of um, getting the cheapest prices and in somewhat hoping that there will be a wall somewhere, because then you can move your machines from your current country to a country where there is no infrastructure and you can get the sewing hours cheaper.
And how did you get,
Um,
sorry to ask, how did you get to the textile industry from the IT? What was like the moment where you just
and that
was
was
approached?
just male. It was just male ambition. I got an offer to become the
Mhm.
CEO when I was in my early 40s. At that time, and everybody who's actually been gone to business school have this secret dream of being a CEO or the big boss, not the second guy in command. So when they asked me about that, I thought, well, I know about running a company and I know things about getting people to do good stuff, and I know things about getting the customers to like the brand. So even if I don't know anything about textile, um, this is the thing for me. But then it took me like a week before I started to question pretty much all the all the solutions and everything that was actually done. And with an attitude like this, well, it's easy to understand that you can only hold maximum 2 years before you get fired. And then you think, well, fuck, I'm going to put your money where your mouth is and I'm going to show you all. So it was ambition and an offering of a CEO. And then uh, my wallet and my bank account tells me that I should go back to IT every day of the week. But here I am, and I think I have the most interesting life of all my class from business school.
Mm. And the company that you have now, Reparell, I'm maybe getting a little bit ahead of where you want to be in the story right now, but we can come back and fill in the gaps here. But how did you get to the company Reparell? And just quickly for our listeners early on in the podcast, what does Reparell mean? What is it about the name, and what is it doing?
Um, Reparell is a made-up name. Actually, you can trace it back to the 1500s in Scotland, where it at that time meant remend. It's basically put together by re from repeat and apparel from clothes.
Okay.
That was the thought, and then we backtracked it. And luckily, when I googled it, um, I found a Scottish word from the 1500s.
Okay.
Um, when I had my first job in textiles, what I did, as I told you, it took me a week to question everything. It took me 2 weeks to ask the production manager to find me similar quality fabric, but made from recycled material, not virgin. And it took him 2 weeks to find it, and it took me another month to make the first trial sample. And then within 12 months, we had actually the first suit for commercial use in Europe, made with a mix of recycled polyester and wool.
Hmm.
It was like this easy when you just ask someone to use it, and um, that's pretty much what I've been basing Reparell upon. There is a lot of very, very good inventions,
Mhm.
there is a lot of very, very good people doing stuff. I mean, if you think that this was 2015 and the recycled polyester we used was rPETs,
Hmm.
I know today that I wouldn't use rPET, but 2015, well, that was the best that was available that we could actually use, and it was, even though it's the nicest plastic we have, it's better than virgin material. So there's a lot of haters um, at all everywhere on the trial. But again, what I've learned from this is trying to base my production on the best that is actually commercially available at the moment, and then constantly being on the lookout for other inventions. So to make a long story short, 2015 we for my former employer, we released the Repeat collection. Actually, it's the most um, revenue giving product that my own former employer have, and it's living very good today. They haven't developed it from what we did 2015, but it's still nice, and it's still better than virgin plastic. I jumped ship. I couldn't bring Repeat with me because even though I came up with the word, I had to leave it with my employer. So I needed to find something else, and that's when we started working with ocean waste. We're talking about the sequel, which was 2019, I think, replaced recycled PETs to recycled ocean waste or a sequel. And then 2022, we found out that you can actually make yarn from pyrolyzed tires. You can actually make, as you guys know more about the technicalities than I do. So from the pyrolysis oil, you can actually make nylon 5.8. And then I asked my producers in Porto to get a hold of a roll of yarn and see what we can make from that. So today I have one of the biggest privately owned super yachts in the world, running a cruise with their owner. And the owners and the crew are actually dressed in old plastic from the ocean and recycled tires, and I'm kind of proud of that. And then again, at the moment, we are doing some research in Sweden. I believe that you can actually find ways to use more ocean waste than SQL are doing at the moment. As you probably know, they are putting in 15% ocean waste, mixing it up with 85% landfill. I often get questions of people negative to this and say, well, why don't you use 100% ocean waste? Well, all four of us know, all four of us, yeah. It's me, the one on the screen, and you two guys. Now all three of us knows that's actually impossible
Uh,
because of the quality of it. But
exactly.
but I believe that working together with BASF
Hmm.
and a research facility in Gothenburg, we can get up to 40%
Hmm.
real bad quality plastic mixed up with virgin or landfill or better plastic. I mean, and for me, that is a victory as well. I mean, it's a matter of making the most out of what's available today, and then uh, gain um, gain percentage as technology comes to the market.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what you're doing is you're not in developing and producing yourself. You basically work together with a lot of partners. You find the right ideas and right innovations, and then you, through Reparell, you build up these consortia to commercialize new technologies, and only focusing on textiles, or do you also look into other sectors?
At the moment, we're focusing on textile
Mhm.
because textiles is easy. It's also an industry where you can, if you add uh, a good story, and if you find your customer base, you can actually get a revenue that is feasible for a commercial business. As I told you about the super yacht, or if you look at my corporate clients, I mean, they're not actually buying a T-shirt or a tote bag or whatever. They're buying a product which helps them with their brand, their marketing, their story. They would have bought the tote bag anyway, but it's easier for them to pay the price it actually costs to produce it if it comes with a story, or if it's just a little bit better than what's in the market. You're right. That's how we started Reparell, by finding available technologies and putting it into a commercial context. I mean, uh, that's one of, there is so many nice inventions. There is so many people doing so much good without actually solving the commercial part of it. And then again, inventions without customers, um, they tend to die, right? Um, but again, I'm not a patient guy. So when I told you that I found Sequel 2019, they have 15% ocean waste in their stuff, and today it's 2024, and they haven't developed. Well, then it's easy for me to call BASF and this research facility in Sweden, and found the research and figure out how can we make a yarn with more bad trash than what everyone else is doing. There is also a sustainable question with the propriety of yarn production today. I'll give you an example. Last summer, I got a call from one of the guys who works for one of the important families in the Emirates. This is like a crazy story, but bear with me. After they built New De Palm, I mean, they had one De Palm, which was super big, and then they thought, well, we really need a bigger De Palm.
Uh-huh.
Uh, the new De Palm fucked up the currents and the streams for the one of the prince's mangrove beaches, or whatever. So his guy calls me and says, "Well, uh, would you mind coming down here and pick some trash, and then you could make clothes of it, and then we can deliver it as a marketing thing on COP28?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, I mind actually, because me picking up trash um, in in the Emirates, bringing it to to Barcelona to make yarns from it, shipping it to Porto to make clothes from it, and then flying it back to you guys. Well, actually, done the world, we made the world worse with this concept. But
Yeah.
if you give me a year or something, I'd be happy to try to figure out a way that we can come to you. We can put up the organization um, of cleaning the trash using local workers. Hopefully, we can find somewhere for shredding, and somewhere local to make the yarn, and then we can ship the yarn to India for the garment making. For that sake, that will make sense. And the problem with a lot of the yarn European yarn makers, which is the only one I have to do with today, is that they're actually just using their own factories to produce what they are producing. I
Mhm.
believe that um, if I and you guys as private citizens are working within the sharing economy. I mean, if you're going to the mountains, you rent the extra storage for your car and stuff. I mean, you don't have to own these things. I believe that if we can find a recipe for um, yarn containing more bad trash in Gothenburg, we would be able to set up solutions producing this all over the world at existing factories. I mean, um, polyester pellets, which is supposed to be yarn, will be polyester pellets supposed to be yarn as long as you blend it directly. And 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 in the end of my dream is that, um, I mean, I don't take a stand on fast fashion. I think that people should buy what they need and use it as long as they want to, or as long as it holds together. I mean, I have my clothes for a very long time, but I think that if H&M, for instance, insist on making cheap clothes far from here, the solution is to make the yarn from local waste as close
Yeah.
to their garment factory as possible. I feel that, I don't know if you heard about Renewcell or
Yeah.
these alternative factories. I have a problem with um, the big corporations building big factories in Europe or close to their headquarters just to have an easy solution to show journalists. When if you want to address the
Yeah.
sustainable question, you really have to do something where the problem is.
Yeah.
And then again, making viscosity in the north of Sweden from jeans important from the southern Europe, shipping the cellulose to China to import the clothes again. Well, somebody have to give this a business thought.
Mm.
But again, I'm a small fish, so it's easy for me to dream. But again, I have this project. We're trying to find a recipe for worse or better yarn, and find a way to produce it as close to the factories as possible.
How is it
That's
today, Emil? I mean, what's clear is the driver of what you're doing is very much your commitment and sticking with something that you believe in. Um, if you look at the current climate, and I think that it's been now a few years, I guess, that industries, societies in general have become more aware of the problem of, let's say, plastic waste, ocean waste, and the need to do something about that. And say let's go back maybe 5, 10 years that this has started to come into the picture. Um, do you see that the intensity of engagement with the market, with your customers, with partners, etc., is remaining as high as it was, is increasing, or do you have to work harder to maintain the attention that's necessary in order to do the work that you want to do? And then lastly, I mean, with all the challenges that we have in this world that we live in, that tend to put environmental concerns maybe at a lower priority, sustainability maybe at a little lower priority when it comes to versus war and peace and so on. Are you affected by this in any way, or do you see a steady, constant, or even growing commitment and interest in the work that you're doing?
that's I would like to say yes and no and maybe to all of that.
That's good.
Because
That's what I say all the time.
no, but to put it like this, I'm a my background is business school, right? So I have to be able to do what I believe. I'm a really big fish in a I'm a really small fish in a really big poem, right? So I have this idea, and I think that if I just work very hard to show that this is economically sustainable, um, at some time, the rest will see it as well. And if I can get more people to see that you can actually charge more for good products if you tell them the story and if you let people know that you're actually making a difference. I mean, you don't have to be solving the total pollution problem, but you are doing your bit at the moment. I mean, if you just pick up some trash on your way to the bus stop, well, you have contributed to the solution. Um, as for the business part of Reparell, we have decided to aim ourselves on corporate companies who are buying things that they basically shouldn't buy. I mean, there is no reason for corporations to buy 250 polo shirts for their employees just because they're going to Germany for a fair, right? I had this incredibly nice conversation with one of my best customers. He called me and said, "We need 250 polos. They have to be yellow and they have to be sustainable." And I said, "Well, maybe you should use the 250 yellow that you bought last year. That would be kind of sustainable." And and then they said, "Oh well, no can do." And I said, "Well, maybe you should go out and buy them second hand. That would be sustainable as well." No corporate policy. We really need new ones. And then I said, "Well, okay, I can help you because I have these shirts made from old trash. They are made in Europe. They travel maximum 40 kilometers from yarn to ready-made product, and we'll ship it directly to your office, so we don't have a storage, we don't have any overproduction stuff. But I have to work only with the customers who understand this and are willing to pay the price. It's tougher, but it would have been even tougher if I uh, tried to scale the business on selling cheaper to more customer. The solution for my business model is more finding a way to be an European player. That is why I go to Green Tech Festival in Berlin every year, trying to get European customers because I can make my company survive with selected items of companies, and that is the best I can do because if I tried to be mainstream, I would and try to satisfy everyone, I would probably not have a sustainable business case. I don't know if that was
Yeah.
answer good enough,
Well, let
but I
me.
think that in these days you have to be smarter
Mhm.
with who are your customers and what is your what do you offer.
Yeah, and maybe a similar question to John's, just from a different perspective, more the technical material perspective. Do you see that due to this awareness, the material choices that you can work with, or like maybe even supply chains, make it easier for you? Because you said you started 2015, so RPET was kind of the only available thing on the market, but now you have an increase of chemical recycling, fiber to fiber recycling. You have more, maybe even better quality waste management solutions, and also the ocean waste can be can be, or marine plastic, how we like to call it, rather marine bound plastic,
Marine
is
bound plastic,
also,
I'll add
yeah,
that as well.
is cleaner, so that you have more choices. So does it make it easier for you now, or do you still like see that, well, it's still your your effort to actually find the right
I mean,
sustainable solution?
what's there are really interesting things happening in chemical recycling, for instance. Myself, I'm uh, I'm a bit skeptical to all these big companies wanting to create giga factories solving problems. And we talked about renew, so we have Syre, which is a really nice idea, but more into creating an idea of um, hey, you can buy more clothes because we can make it to new clothes again, so you don't have to be you don't have to feel bad about it. And I think for me, I'm impressed by all the people working with chemical recycling. But for me, I think that uh, whatever you can recycle mechanically. You have a lesser waste of material. You have a lesser need of resources in the process. I'm not against chemical recycling at all, and I use Tencel, which is probably the hardest chemical treated material in the world, and it's also the best. I have to say that the only Tencel I buy from Austria and Lenzing, so I got fairly good certainty that it's not leaking anywhere. But I'm impressed by the chemical recycling guys, but I feel that for me, what's obvious in the short run is that finding ways of working with mechanical recycling and finding ways of working with it where there is a trash problem, for instance. I mean, we talked about the Far East, right? Setting up
Mhm.
factories in Africa, being able to make yarn from this or whatever. And again, you don't have to use yarn. I'm doing some. I have a guy looking for investors for Reparell at the moment, and one of the investors I talked to sent me this YouTube film about a company who made building blocks from ocean waste or ocean-bound waste or what we should call it. And I told him that this is really nice. I would be happy to work with it, but at the moment there is too much competition in big in cheap materials for building blocks. But if you can do textile, well, there is a better markup. And then again, if you see the rest of the world, not only Europe. I mean, we started with the fact that I'm Norwegian, and Norwegian is pretty much influenced by its only textile industry, and that's knitting and wool. So in rich countries in the northern Europe, all people are talking about the only way of being sustainable is by using natural fibers, which is a solution for those who can pay for it. But if you look at Africa, if you look at Southeast Asia, uh, you, I mean, if all of the world should be clothed by clothes only made from wool, you would be needing 19 times
Yeah.
the area of South America just
Mm.
to feed
Mm.
the sheep, right? So you have to you have to put it in perspective, I think. That's and again, there is no right, no wrong. I'm not chasing the guys who advocate wool or not even the cotton industry, even though I would prefer organized polyester fibers made in secure factories to the cotton industry myself.
And
Sorry if I
because you
took
said,
the ball on.
yeah, because you said that now you've been working with PET, you've been working with now the polyamide tensile. So, what is one of the most exciting innovations that you came across over the last 2 years in the material world?
I I'm really excited about the tire waste.
Hmm.
I mean, being able to use tires for something real. I mean, I said that I'm not impressed by chemical recycling. That is not totally true. I'm really impressed by pyrolysis. But again, it's a super energy demanding and super expensive. But I think it's really cool. And everyone who's seen a tire graveyard understands that. I mean, it's just 5 years ago where you were actually allowed to chop up tires to small pellets and put it on soccer grounds for it to leak freely out in the nature. I mean, we need tires and we need cars and we need to find ways of recycling the products that we're actually using. So I'm impressed by that, and I also have this idea that together with BASF and RISE, and my cluster in Gothenburg, that we will be able to make a reasonable yarn, which is not 100% PET or nylon, that we can actually get the viscosity in a mixed product, which will make it so much easier to work with different trash streams in the future. I think that the fact that chemical industries have had molecular extender solutions on the shelf for so long, but nobody have actually given it a whack. Um, that that kind of offends me. That is why I'm
Yeah.
basically funding this project myself.
Mhm.
Um, but that's it's going to be crucial to the idea of setting up um, plastic cleaning organizations in addition to textile factories in the rest of the world.
Mhm. You were talking, well, Matt alluded to this about different materials and so on. Coming back to ocean waste, ocean bound plastic, and the lack of material that is suitable for your purposes in terms of the quality. Do you see that this has indeed changed over time, or do you see this as remaining the same? That because we Plastic Climate Future, Matt and I are rather regularly talking with individuals and organizations that are focused on ultimately collecting ocean plastic, ocean bound plastic, and then doing something with it. And just anecdotally, my perception is that there's a lot of people and players out there that are working on this. So that I would think that there would be over time some increasing of the amount of ocean plastic available for recycling, and perhaps even increasing quality of it because of sorting and so on.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good people doing a lot of good things at the moment. I think that it's easier to talk about. I mean, all these ocean waste, ocean bound, ocean plastic. Uh,
Mhm.
it's kind of blur, and again, let's just agree about the fact that all plastic will eventually end up in the ocean, give and take a million years or so. But I feel that um, you can talk about ocean waste, ocean-borne plastic, and for me it makes the commercialization easier because you can show uh, turtle and say, hey, we don't want that to swim in the plastic, right? But the main problem in the world is that we are producing too much virgin plastic every day. We need to find ways to recycle the plastic that we are actually producing. And again, if I could use all the plastic before it ended up in the ocean, I
Yeah.
would be happy to do
Mm.
I mean, there is no end mean in people fishing the plastic from the ocean for me to make textiles. It's just you have to start somewhere, and again, it's like the polyamide we're making from the tires. I mean, um, as for microplastic, tires are actually the biggest source of microplastic in the world. So if
Mm.
we can find ways of making tires um, shredding less microplastic, that would be a huge leap as well.
Mm.
Um, I don't want to. I want to talk myself up, but from time to time I think that well, I'm just this small fish doing what I can with my means and my money, and fortunately I've found customers who uh, are actually willing to pay for the products, making it possible for me live to die another day and trying to challenge both existing producers, but also um, competitors to take another step. I mean, I really love the sequel guys. I think they are super. And as for uh, the companies making yarns out of maritime debris or ocean-borne plastic or whatever we'll call it, those are the guys I trust. The rest of the industry, I don't trust that much. But I, I, I if I had to choose a supplier of maritime debris, and I ended up with Sequel because I trust them. And then all these guys claiming that their products contains ghost nets and stuff, I really don't believe them. So I avoid them. But again, uh, if I get to the point where I have the possibility of producing my own yarn or making other people produce my yarn from my recipe, well, then I will be 100% certain that I've established something and that I'm actually I'm doing something good. And again, hopefully, if I make it work commercially, someone will steal the idea, and nothing would have been better than one of the big companies stealing my idea because they could do it big scale, and then that would have a much bigger effect than me earning a couple of bucks on it. I mean, I'm one of the guys who thinks that, well, when Primark says that they have um, reduce their CO2 footprint with 20%. Well, I'm happy about that. I mean, I still don't approve about the fast fashion industry, but 20% for a player like Primark is incredibly more substantial for the world than 40 middle-aged women in Norway knitting sweaters to their relatives.
Yeah, and now since you talked about it, from your kind of was a business experience in that area, what do you think are the biggest challenges actually for these innovative players to scale? Because I mean, as you said, they come up with these solutions. We know that it's necessary to have these solutions. What are where do you see the challenges for those players in the first place? Is it a lack of
I
customer awareness? Is it like frameworks, or is it still the big industry that is still a bit slow in adopting?
I think that's okay. And I'll be happy to use Renewcell as an example.
Mm.
I don't want to talk bad about them because they're nice people and they're doing something good, but they're based on a technical innovation without necessarily asking the market, is there a use for this? If you look at the cellulose, it's basically tencel or it's viscoses, right? Do we need more viscoses in the world? Or are we actually just making a business of a problem that we have learned to solve? I mean, if you think that the basis of um, viscoses is older jeans. Well, old jeans is 100% cotton and is compostable. So basically, you should just landfill it and make it make a soil of it, right?
Yeah.
Rather than transporting around, because there is no uh, there is no shortage of viscoses in the world, and there are so many much better, much easier ways of make viscoses. For instance, woods or bamboo or whatever. Um, I believe that one of the problems is that, or in Sweden or in Scandinavia, there is a really big focus on um, the technical innovation, not the commercial solution to it. So you end up with companies who have an innovation which is patentable, which gives investors some certainty because they're that's what they're familiar with. I mean, if you have a patent for an Intel chip, for instance, you have something substantial. Um, for Reparell's sake, we have a business model, and when we've been doing uh, these meetings with possible investors, one of the questions we most often got is, um, can you patent anything that you do? And I say no. What will happen if all your competitors starts making clothes from waste from the ocean? And I say, well, wouldn't that be something? I mean, I promise you, if everybody started doing that, we would get rid of the plastic in the ocean, and then I would give you back your money, and I would spend the rest of my life giving key talks on how I single-handedly um, ended the plastic pollution in the ocean. So there is a problem with there is a problem with the focus. I think that instead of building large giga factories, you should do the same business-wise with your inventions as you do as a private citizen. Make small solutions locally. Make more of them. I mean, instead of scaling up
Right.
one big factory, make lots of small ones, because then you can be able to move from place to place.
Mm.
So
Isn't
that's my take on it.
isn't this also kind of like this idea of a circular economy to decentralize also not only
Yeah,
supply but also production basically, because
I
then you kind of
think that that's important, really, really important part of circular economy. Being able
mm,
to go where where the production is needed or the delivery is needed,
mm,
and be flexible. I mean, we're talking about being flexible in our private life in any ways, and I think that inventions or the sustainable industry should not be so focused on all industrial dogmas, but see how we can work with it.
mhm, mhm. Great. I'm just looking at the time, and I see that I think we can even have another hour. Still, I I have one question that we need to ask you, and before that, I have one more actually, which I was interested in because we just came back from the World Biomarkets event, which was all about bioeconomy and bio-based solutions.
Yeah.
So do you have any experience, and how do you see actually the bioplastics as an alternative to fossil based plastics, not only like recycled plastics, but also maybe to general, like the whole chemical recycled plastics? So do you think, or have you even maybe experienced some of biopolymers that you could use for textiles as well?
Yeah, two times. I not two times, but the first time was like 2020, when I
Hmm.
met a guy from PLA producing companies. They were making PLA pellets in Sweden, and I
Hmm.
thought,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
wouldn't that be neat? He said that they'd done some trials in Turkey, trying to make yarn from it, and it was successful. So if I wanted, I could get I could get the dealership, or being the one who makes yarn from it. So I spent 20,000 euros getting gooey out of the machines. It was not suitable for plastic. I was really, really excited about bioplastics at that time. And at the moment, I'm working with one of my biggest one of my biggest partners in Porto, Lamar, which is a weaving mill, works a lot with different kind of newly developed materials, and also bioplastic. Um, I think it's neat, and I try not to be negative to inventions and stuff. But if I can choose, I would much rather use
Mhm.
recyclable
Mhm.
polymers and try to find ways to
Mhm.
use the material again and again. I mean, from time to time, you see these commercials about this is biodegradable plastic. You can bury it in your garden and it will dissolve, and you just want to shoot your brain out because nobody should bury their shirt in the yard, uh, in the
Yeah.
garden, right? Um, so I like those guys, and they can do it, and I produce with fabrics you made from biopolymers as well. Um, but that's not my cup of tea. I like polymers, and I like recycling of it, and I like mechanical recycling of it.
Uh,
Okay. All right. Well, we could indeed, as Matt says, we could go all night with this discussion, Emil, and we would like to kind of put out there somewhere in the not too distant future, arrange a time when we can come together again to pick up on this discussion. Before we get to the most important question of the night, uh, um, I want to use a little bit of my Norwegian and say "tusen takk" for tonight. That's Cavell, right? Night is Cavell, I think.
That's really good.
Tusen takk.
Tusen takk for
Thank you
kväll.
very much.
Yep.
And before the most important question of the night, which we're going to learn a little bit about your musical tastes, if you could say wave a magic wand or be king of the world or whatever it might be, and say if I could, based on what it is that you're doing, your values, your religion, as you mentioned earlier. Uh, where would you like what would you wish for over the next 5 years, 10 years, in order for your vision to be more widely realized? Is that question something that you could grapple with giving a shot at an answer to?
I I have this idea of doing the best I can today and then try to top it tomorrow. And
Okay.
if I could get everyone to, I mean, I'm a flogger, I'm running around picking up trash in the streets and stuff. And I try to teach people that if you even pick one piece of trash, that is better than picking no pieces of trash. Okay, I might collect a full plastic bag because there is something wrong with my head. But if you can pick up two chewing gum papers,
Hmm.
that will
Hmm.
make the world better. So if I could get more people to realize what you are doing today, being quite happy about doing that, but then ask yourself, how can I do this better tomorrow?
Wow. I have to say,
That's
in all
my
seriousness, Emil, that is really very good advice. I was kind of halfway expecting some, highfalutin kind of vision, but
Hakuna
it's
Matata or
really really down to earth. I get that, and I agree
yeah,
with
but
you.
it's a
It's
matter
like,
of
yeah.
it's the only way you can get progress. I mean, you can't get progress with too high standards or too high goals
yeah.
because you will never reach it. But if you can just be a little bit better every day, I think I think that will mean so much for the
Mm.
whole society.
I
Mm.
like that. I like that. Okay, well then we're gonna
Well,
get.
now we're very curious, actually, to the answer to the last question after this
Yes.
this statement. So, I John, you can ask the last question.
Oh, thank you so much. No, yeah. The last question is we ask all of our guests. Matt and I, we both like music, and Matt sometimes flatters in saying that we are musicians. Truth is, Matt's a musician, and I play tab guitar music. But we both love music, and we think that it's since we started this podcast over 2.5 years ago, we've been building up a playlist on Spotify of the songs, the music that our guests have come up with, and it's actually really a really cool list. And we'd like to ask you, Emil, to give us a song or two that's close to you, something that you like. It could be related to your work, your vision. It could just be some good music that you like, or anything. But if you could do that, we would really appreciate it, and we'll add it to the playlist.
I'm really, really honored. Since my girlfriend, I've been opening the door 2 times, reminding me that we actually have guests and they've already started eating. One song comes to mind, and that's Michael Franks, right? It's summer, it's hot, and Michael Franks is like yeah, it's summer music for me. So if I could contribute with popsicle toes, that would be tribute to my girlfriend, and also a very nice song that I can that people can listen to. And I mean, maybe it's because I'm
And
old. Maybe a lot of people haven't heard about Michael Franks even. So the secondary, I don't know. That would be kind of middle-aged white male as well. I would say Bruce Springsteen and Born to Run. I'm not. I'm not
Okay.
more sophisticated than that. But
And
Michael Franks, I really like.
I tell you what, I think the boss is pretty sophisticated. So Born to Run, baby, I love that. But I'm a hound dog from Arkansas, so what would you expect anyway? All right.
yeah, thanks a lot, Emil, and especially thanks a lot that you took so much time smelling the good food behind the door, and you're having your guests behind the door. So we appreciate that this hour was ours, and we were more important than the guests. We're not going to tell them.
Thank Thank you so much for having me. And again, I'm a big fan, and I think that you do tremendous work. And it's
Thanks
like
a lot.
every one of us have to do what we can and try to influence. You influence me by your podcast, and I searched up you, and maybe there is someone out there who's influenced by me and have an idea for something I should put my commercial organization into, or whatever. So from the bottom of my heart, I'm really, really honored to have been a part of you
Thanks.
guys.
Thanks.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
a lot. That's really great, Emil. Thank you so much.
Thanks.